saying? Yeah, like 2 degrees.
This my right.
Yeah. Like this, kind of hold it. Yeah, hold it, you know. And then like that.
Kind of.
I think that's good. All right.
Right? This lesson will be who is Northern Kingdom? Right? Who are the so-called Hispanics and Native Americans? You have certain camps, you have certain leaders of certain congregations. They say and make claims that they're Esau. They say that the Mexican man, so-called, is Edom. They say, oh, he oppresses us, he hates us. We've heard it all, it's wicked. Right? That's an abomination, that's awful. Right? For you to say that, that's you denouncing the Lord. In fact, might as well bring it out. Bring out Luke 13 and 32. You know. The book of Luke.
Chapter 13, verse 32. And it reads, and he said unto them, go ye and tell that fox, behold, I cast out devils.
Right, this is Yahweh speaking to the people saying, oh, arise and kill you, go ahead.
I do cures today and tomorrow, and the third day I shall be perfected.
Right, go ahead.
Nevertheless, I must walk today and tomorrow, and the day following, for it cannot be that a prophet perish out of Jerusalem.
Right, so the point is, Yahweh, and he was healing the sick, the blind, and guess what? Guess who was amongst them? Northern Kingdom. Right, we're still called Hispanics and Native Americans. Go to 1 Peter 2 and 4. All right. Let me get a precept for that in a second. You got it.
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 4. To whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of God and precious.
Right, we're the living stones of Yahweh Shemel Shai. Even the so-called Hispanics and Native Americans, I'm gonna keep saying it over and over, so Israel can understand and get the picture. For you to say that they're not Israelites, that's like you plucking off the stones that we're trying to build up through the Spirit. Because they're about their stones too. But again, every time you say that they're Esau, that's like just plucking it out. Alright? Go ahead.
Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house and a holy priesthood.
That's right. Even the so-called Hispanics and Americans, they're the spiritual lively stone.
To offer
up what?
To offer up spiritual sacrifices.
That's right. Now, of course, the Bible is more than enough proof. However, you do have certain historical artifacts, pages, things of that nature that verifies this as well. That proves that the Hispanics and the Americans are indeed Israelites. If you don't believe in the Bible, of course you're wicked, you're going off. But you can't neglect history. You can't say, oh no, you can't. No. It is what it is. Right? Even history will show you that the Northern Kingdom are Israelites as well. We're going to bring out all that information as well.
I got a quick precept in Luke 2 and 36. Just to show that the Northern Kingdom was amongst. Those that Yahweh was healing, they was actually, some of them still was, the remnant was still left. Bring it out in Jerusalem.
The book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 36.
Right?
There was one Anna, a prophetess, the daughter of Pethuel, of the tribe of Asher.
Right, she was from the tribe of Asher. Right, read.
Phanuel, of the tribe of Asher. She was of a great age, and had lived with an husband 7 years from her virginity.
You see that? So yeah, Asher is still amongst the Jews, right? Get John 11 verse 50.
John 11.
Verse 50.
Book of John chapter 11 verse 50, and it reads, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man shall die for the people, that the whole nation perish not.
All right, this is Caiaphas, the high priest, right, speaking about Yahweh Shai, right, really prophesying through the Spirit, right?
And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest of that year, he prophesied that Yahweh Shai should die for that nation.
Right.
And not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad.
See that, but not for that nation only, but for the children of God that were scattered abroad. Because Israel became two nations. Right? They actually split. Right? Get that in Ezekiel 37. I believe I want like verse 12. Like no, Ezekiel it's like 37 and verse 22.
Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 22.
Right?
And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel.
Right? See, he's going to make Israel one nation, read.
And one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more two nations.
Right? There shall be no more two nations. You got the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. Right? That's where you get the Jews from. Right? That's short for Judah. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Right? Read.
Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all.
Right? But in that last day, Yahweh Shah, right, he's going to gather us all. We're going to be one nation. Right? Get that in Isaiah 11. Right? And verse 12.
The book of Isaiah chapter 11 verse 12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
Right? Read.
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off.
Read.
Ephraim shall not envy Judah,
Right? Ephraim shall not envy Judah.
and Judah shall not vex Ephraim.
And that's what they're doing now. Now you got the southern kingdom vexing the northern kingdom and vice versa. Like the brother said, you got people calling them heathen just because they hair ain't woolly. That's mad. Right, and carnal. You gotta be black as midnight to be an Israelite to carnally minded men.
And that just proved that the Mexicans are Israelites, because the southern kingdom want to get on the so-called Mexicans, the Spanish. They, like it's in the scriptures, they envy each other.
Exactly, man. Right? So you can't do that, man. Like people say you with a heathen woman because he got a Cuban wife. That's wicked, man. Right? They went through the same thing that brothers that we went through, man. Before we even went through it, man. Right? Give me that Jeremiah, it is 50 and 33.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, and verse 33.
Right?
And it reads, Thus said the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together.
Right? They were oppressed together. Right? Who's more oppressed than the blacks and the Spanish and Native Americans on earth, man? Right? We were oppressed together in this thing, man. And this Jeremiah speaking through the Spirit. All right, that we were oppressed together. We weren't together at this time of Jeremiah. They was already split.
And so lucky. And this is a good point, because imagine, like the brothers finna say, they were split in Babylon and Assyria. So they wasn't oppressed together. But now in America, the nation of Israel are oppressed together. Judah and Israel and Jerusalem. So you gotta think about it. What nation is oppressed together in America? It's the Africans that come over here that they say that is Northern Kingdom oppressed with us. It's the Arabics oppressed with us. It's the white man oppressed with us. But who's here that we can see oppressed with us in America? The so-called Hispanics, Mexicans. So this is how we know that Northern Kingdom is.
Brother making a good point. That's what I was saying. This isn't talking about, this is Jeremiah speaking of prophecy, saying they are oppressed together. Right, keep reading on that.
And all that took them captives held them fast, and they refused to let them go.
What is the Hispanics' last names? Rodriguez, Sanchez. And that's Spaniard last name. They're just like us, they're captive.
Edom's at
So of course they're Israelites. Right? Brother had a point.
I got a precept, Daniel 9 and 12, right? Just going into like everything that's happened to Israel, all of us is going through it, and nobody else has been through it. Just give me.
I got 7.
You read that whole thing. Now get Daniel 9 and 12. Right? Get Daniel 9 and 12.
The book of Daniel, chapter 9 and verse 12.
Right?
And it reads, And he had confirmed his words which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven said, have not been done as it had been done upon Jerusalem.
Right. Everything that happened to the Israelites, no other nation dealt with it, man. Only our people. Like, we deal with all the exact same things, man. Even when we read the curses, Deuteronomy 28:54, right? They gang bang just like we gang bang.
That's right.
Right? It was all kind of civil war and all hell breaking loose with the neighbors, man. Fighting these tribal wars and things of that nature, man. So this is the spirit of Israel. That's the spirit we always been moving in from the beginning, right? They fit everything that's in the Bible, right? So let's get a quick precept going into the Northern Kingdom. This is 2 Kings 11. It's like 1 Kings 11, and start at 29.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 29.
I actually start at 28,
Verse 28.
right?
And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor,
Right?
and Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph.
Right? He made him ruler over the house of Joseph, the house of Ephraim, over the northern tribes of Israel. Right? So Jeroboam was the chief over that, because even during the time of Solomon, you had different, they different rulers. Right? Get that in 1 Kings 4 real fast. And start at 1 Kings 4, verse 7.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 4, verse 7. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which had provided victuals for the king and his household, each man his month and a year made provision.
Right, and when you read about these different men, it was over certain lands, right? Because, that's in the law, right? You set up different captains and officers over different sects of men, right? That's how you, properly divide a kingdom. Right? Even Esau do that. You got the president and the senate and mayors and governors and judges and different things of that nature, right? So he set up Jeroboam over the house. Seeing he was industrious, he set him up over the house of Joseph. Right, so get that, go back to 1 Kings 11 and 29.
And it came to pass at the time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Ajah, the Shulamite, found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field.
Right, so Ahijah, right, he's seen Jeroboam, right, had this new garment, right, read.
And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces.
Tore it up in 12 pieces, read.
And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces. For thus said the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will rent the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee.
Right, and those 10 tribes that make up the northern kingdom. Right, Dan, what's that? Dan, Ephraim, Manasseh, you got Simeon, Asher, Gad, right, Naphtali, Zebulun, Issachar, Reuben, right, Manasseh. These are all these 10 tribes. Everybody besides Judah and Benjamin. Right, but Levi, they grew up in the suburbs, so they ended up coming out the suburbs to join the southern kingdom. Right, let's get that that First Chronicles. That's that First Chronicles. What's that precept?
I got three seconds.
Okay, you can bring out your precept. Trying to find this.
Ezra, 25.
The book of Ezra, chapter 1,
I was saying, break that down.
and verse 5, and it reads, Then rose up the chief of the father of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests, and the Levites, with all them whose spirit God had raised, to go up to build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem.
Right. Now read that. What book is that, brother?
Ezra chapter 1 and verse 5.
Right, this is Ezra, chapter 1, verse 5. And again, under what, brothers know which captivity this was? The Persians. When did Northern Kingdom leave?
Syria.
Yeah, so this is way afterwards. So this is more proof to let you know that Judah, Benjamin, and Levi was amongst each other. Right? That's why, some brothers say Judah, it's like Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Just so Israel can understand. You know, when you read certain verses in context within the Bible, you know, it's called. You got it.
You can go to Ezra 4 and 11 through 12 and they can prove, like, saying, including them as the Jews.
Ezra chapter 4, verse 11. This is the copy of the letter that they sent unto him, even unto Artaxerxes the king, thy servants, the men on this side of the river, and at such a time. Be it known unto the king that the Jews which came up from thee to us are come into Jerusalem, building the rebellious in the bad city, and have set up the walls thereof and joined the foundations.
That's funny. That's funny.
They straight up called them the Jews.
Southern king.
Yeah, you know. So everybody can't be a Jew. To be technical, you know, you can't look at this person, you know, say they're a Jew. You have to be from Judah, Benjamin, or Levi to be a Jew. They're Israelites.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're Israelites. They technically would be a Jew.
Like get Second Chronicles, not what I want, but I found some. Second Chronicles 13 and 8. What is that precept?
Second Chronicles chapter 13 and verse 8.
Right?
And now you think to withstand the kingdom of the Lord and the hand of the sons of David. And ye be a great multitude, and there are with you gold and calves, which Jeroboam made you for gods.
Right, this is going into Jeroboam, right, read.
Have ye not cast out the priests of the Lord, the sons of Aaron, and the Levites, and have made you priests after the manner of the nations of other lands?
You see that? So he cast out the Levites. So the Levites went and joined Benjamin and Judah. Like you reading it?
And so that whatsoever cometh to consecrate himself with a young bullock and 7 rams, the same may be a priest of them that are no gods.
Yeah, Esther. Is that it? Yeah, that's actually where I want it. Get second. Yeah, that's what I want. It's second Chronicles 11 and 13.
The book of Second Chronicles, chapter 11, verse 13.
Right.
And the priests and the Levites that were in all Israel resorted to him out of all their coasts.
Start at 12.
First Chronicles 11 verse 12. And of every several
Second Chronicles 11 and 12.
Second Chronicles chapter 11 verse 12. And in every several city he put shields and spears and made them exceeding strong, having Judah and Benjamin on his side.
Right, he had Judah and Benjamin, Rehoboam on his side. Right, it's going into civil war. They're going to fight northern kingdom, the 10 tribes. Like it was just Judah and Benjamin. Right? Keep reading.
And the priests and the Levites that were in all Israel resorted to him out of all their coasts. For the Levites left their suburbs and their possessions and came to Judah and Jerusalem. For Jeroboam and his sons has casted them off from executing the priest's office into the Lord.
You see that? And even Paul, right? Paul was a Benjamin.
Yeah.
And he was known as a Jew. Right? So, you know, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, they represent the Jews, the southern kingdom. Then you got the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes. Right? And that's what we going into. And what happened to them? They ended up getting cast out. Get that in Jeremiah 7 and 15.
The book of Jeremiah chapter 7 and verse 15.
Right?
And it reads, And I will cast you out of my sight, as I have cast out all your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim.
You see that? And that's the Lord threatening this southern kingdom. Like, I'm going to cast you out like I did your brethren. Like, get that in the book of Amos chapter 3 and verse 12.
Amos chapter 3 and verse 12.
Right?
Thus said the Lord, as the shepherd taketh out of the mouth of the lion 2 legs, or a piece of an ear, so shall the children of Israel be taken out that dwell in Samaria, and the corners of a bed, and in Damascus, in a couch.
You see that? So he said the same way that these animals cast out certain things, that's how I'm going to cast Israel out of Samaria. Why? Because they kept going to hell off non-stop. Right? You had a point?
Yeah, I got a quick point. And also the northern kingdom, they went into slavery first in the Syrian Empire. So that's why it was kind of like a discrimination between the southern and northern kingdom. And also they was mixing amongst the Assyrians. So that's why they come fear. That's what it say. Ephraim is a cape unturned.
Real fast, Iraq 47 and 21.
The book of Sirach, chapter 47
Verse 21.
and 21.
Right?
And it reads, so the kingdom was divided out of Ephraim, ruled a rebellious kingdom.
Right. Every single king of Israel was rebellious. What does the Lord do to them for rebellion? He cast them out, man. They went in captivity under the Assyrians. I get that in 2 Kings 18.
The book of 2 Kings,
18, I believe you can start.
It's 17.
17.
No, I want 2 Kings 18 and verse 9.
the book of 2 Kings, chapter 18 and verse 9.
Right.
And it came to pass in the 4th year of King Hezekiah,
Right.
which was the 7th year of Hosea, son of Allah, king of Israel, that Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it.
Right. Shalmaneser, right? He came to besiege Israel, right? Samaria. Right, read.
And at the end of 3 years, they took it.
Right, so they besieged it for 3 years. Right, read.
Even in the 6th year of Hezekiah, that is in the 9th year of Hosea, king of Israel, Samaria was taken.
See, that's when Samaria got took by the Assyrians. They went in captivity under the Assyrians. Right, and what happened from there? They actually came to Arsenal, right, as they was dwelling in this land. And somebody moved the camera and put it to where it can face, kind of like in this corner, so it can face this. We got a corner. We got to start pulling up some information. You can probably take it off the charge. It wasn't. It's something where it's showing us, yeah, all praises. So there we go. So from here, and matter of fact, let's pull it up real fast. Go to type in Samaria captured. Right, 'cause this was in 722, or they say 721 BC. Okay. Slow down. I thought it would show some in scroll down.
Historical.
Wikipedia. Now go up, go to matter of fact, scroll down.
King.
Yeah, Kingdom of Israel. Scroll down. Well, there you go, that second paragraph where it says the kingdom of Israel, the third paragraph slide. It says the kingdom of Israel was destroyed by the Neo-Assyrian Empire around 720 BC. The records of Sargon II of Assyria indicated that he deported 2,700 inhabitants of the former kingdom to Mesopotamia. Right? And they were known for deportation, the Assyrians. Right? They had dragged people by they'll put hooks in their jaws and drag. All right, and that's how they went. Right, straight up. And so, that's what the Lord did. Even click on that map right there. Right, here we go. Have to pull up something like that. I just want to show this is the kingdom split right here.
Northern and southern.
Right, that's the kingdom of Judah. That's the kingdom of Israel. All right, now, brother would want to show that when you look up Assyrian captivity.
You gotta go to Google. Go to Google, type in Gozan River, and then go to images. Gozan River, and then images.
Gozam.
Yeah,
Gozan.
G-O-Z-A-N.
G-O-Z-A-N.
Yeah.
Going into this stuff in that Assyrian captivity right now.
It's the letter M as a name. River.
Right. It is, it's Gozan. Really. We had it right. Images. It's Gozan. Click that picture, that fifth picture. That one right there. Alright, you check it out. Kind of zoom in or what?
To me back.
Click that. There we go. Keep it to see. You got Samaria down there. They went all the way up. So a long way from home.
Rakta.
All the way up. Past the Euphrates. Past Babylon up to the Gozan River.
Now the thing with Gozan is, you see it's right by the Euphrates. Go to 2nd Ezra 14. It's classic. Or 13. 14. Notice where it's at, right? And we gonna read something about how they got to America. Bring it up.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 14.
or 13.
Yeah, 13 to 40.
River Euphrates.
Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king,
Wait, we just read that,
whom Salmanasar the king of Israel led away captive.
right? Salmanasar the fourth took him captive, right? And this actually started even before then. Zoom out real fast, because you got Peliziar before this. He was already sieging the northern kingdom. He was taking people to captive. Right? You want to bring that up? I think that's going into that. Bring that up.
You get Tobit chapter 1 and 1.
Right? Because you got to think, it take a time to destroy a nation. So this was a period of different kings. You got a big Peliziar, he kind of damaged them and messed Israel all up. Then later, Salmanasar gave that final blow. And then Sargon came right after and finished it off. And then they kept getting deported even after that, during the time of Manasseh and stuff.
And it's crazy because that's what Issachar and Northern Kingdom be happening today. They be getting deported.
See that?
Right.
Bring that up.
Yeah. Tobit chapter 1, verse 1. The book of the words of Tobit, son of Tobel, the son of Anuel, the son of Adil, the son of Gabiel, and the son of Esel, of the tribe of Naphtali.
Of the tribe of Naphtali. So Naphtali was up there. Go ahead.
Who in the time of Masar, king of the Assyrians, was led captive out of Despi,
Right.
which is on the right hand of that city, which is called properly Naphtali and Galilee above Asher.
Yep. There you see it. Above Ashur.
Yeah, a short
So it was really in this region. It was all up in this region. Because remember, Tobit and Tobias, they knew about the prophecy that was going to happen to Nineveh. You know, we read in the latter chapters.
Like Jonah.
You know, 'cause like the brother said, Jonah was prophesying against it.
Mm-hmm.
And that prophecy eventually ended up coming to pass. A lot of brothers say, okay, that was an Tobit. Now that prophecy ended up coming to pass, and Nineveh fell.
Yeah, that's, I believe 612 BC, Nineveh fell. They burned it to the ground. Nineveh been there for centuries. That's a powerful, like, these are ancient. Babylon, Assyria, these are ancient civilizations from like 2000, 3000 BC. They've been around, ancient nations. Right, but keep reading.
One more. You can jump to Tobit 14 and 14.
Tobit chapter 14 and verse 14, and it reads, and he died at Ecbatane in Media, being 107 and 20 years old.
Right?
But before he died, he heard of the destruction of Nineveh, which was taken by Nebuchadnezzar and Ahasuerus. And before his death, he rejoiced over Nineveh.
And he rejoiced over Nineveh because Nineveh was a wicked place. Other than maybe Babylon 2.0 or another form of Babylon. You know?
Right, it was actually more than that Tobit.
And one,
Yeah, Tobit 1 and 3.
you can bring it back.
Tobit chapter 1 verse 3.
Yeah, it was a little more meat on that bone.
I, Tobit, have walked all the days of my life in the ways of truth
Right?
and justice, and I did my alms deed to my brethren
Right?
and my nation, who came with me to Nineveh.
Right, his nation came with him to Nineveh. So they got captured. They went to slavery. Right? There's many people in the Bible who went to slavery. Ezekiel, Jeremiah, they all got carried to captivity. Right, read?
And to the land of the
Daniel.
Assyrians.
Right to the land of the Assyrians. He got carried away to Nineveh. Right, which he eventually had to flee because the king was trying to kill him. Right?
And when I was in my own country and the land of Israel,
Go down. Go down, Bob. Sure. You gotta zoom out. In the land of Israel. Read that again.
and when I was Tobit 1 and 4, and when I was in my own country and the land of Israel, being but young, all the tribes of Naphtali, my father, fell from the house of Jerusalem, which was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel,
That's the split.
that all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitation of the Most High was consecrated and built for all ages.
Right? 'Cause everybody's supposed to sacrifice in Jerusalem.
And what does it say after that?
Now all the tribes which together revolted, and the house of my father Naphtali sacrificed
Split Israel and entirely did what?
sacrifice into the heifer, but all.
It's off.
That's that rebellious nation.
That's in Kings.
That's that rebellious nation that divided, and they say the rebellious kingdom came out of Egypt. Every king was wicked, man. Every single last one, from Jeroboam to Hoshea.
I think it was on like one.
I don't
I
know,
think it was one.
righteous.
Yeah, it was good.
All was wicked. Every single last one of them. Right? And that's why the Lord cast them out and did this to them and put them in Goshen. Now let's get second Ezra. Right, it's the importance in Goshen. When you look at where Goshen is located, it's right by the Euphrates River. Right, there's the Euphrates. Scroll up, let's check out Goshen.
River.
Go,
Go all the way through here.
Right, there's Goshen. Now let's bring it up. Second Ezra 13 and 40.
Second Ezra chapter 13
It's important to get into that geography. Bring it up.
and verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea, the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive.
Right,
And he carried them over the waters, so they came into another land.
right.
But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen.
Right, get, real fast, get Tobit 13 and 3. Because they was around nothing but heathen. Even when you read, going into the deportation of the Assyrians, they took all these different people and threw them in certain lands so they could do work for them. So they was around all these other nations, man. Right, bring that up.
Tobit 13 and 3.
Right,
Confess them before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for ye have scattered us among them.
right, you see that? And even during the time of Tobit, he said we scattered amongst the Gentiles. Right, so they was around these heathens. So they said we go leave the multitude of the heathen, go back to second Ezra.
Second Ezra chapter 13 and verse 41.
Right,
But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen
we gonna get the hell out of here, really.
and go forth into a further country,
Right,
where never mankind dwelt.
what did it say?
Where never mankind dwelt.
Now hold on now. It's 722 BC. You had all kind of different places. You got the Etruscans, right? The Noahs, all these different people dwelling all throughout the earth. On the east side of the earth, right? But on the western hemisphere, nobody dwelt there. So this talk about them coming to America, right? You reading?
That's right.
That they may keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land.
Right, and we understand they never kept the commandments. Every king was wicked, right? You reading?
And that's a cut too, because they say Northern Kingdom in Africa. We was in Egypt. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
madness.
so this is talking about the northern kingdom coming to a land that was never dwelt. That's America.
Yeah, come up, keep reading. Improve it, bring it up.
that they may keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land.
Right?
And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow place of the river.
They entered into where?
They entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river.
Brothers paying attention?
Shema,
quick,
Shema,
Shema.
Shema.
Check
But,
this out.
but can you actually zoom out just a little bit? I want to show one quick point. It wouldn't make sense for them to go all the way up. First of all, the Ozark River could pretty much stop right there. So, I mean, they had to go down past the narrow passage of Euphrates. And then go all, that's why it took they need a year and a half before reading the second. That's all.
Right? So they entered, and this is where they was taken. When you read 2 Kings 18. If I'm gonna get 2 Kings 18, I don't think we finished it. 2 Kings, I'm gonna read it. 2 Kings 18 in verse number 11. It says, and the king of Syria did carry away Israel unto Assyria and put them in Halah and in the harbor by the river of Gozan and in the city of the Medes. Right? So there was a river right there. They just showing Euphrates, but of course it's not showing every little river, but they entered into a river, into the Euphrates, and they left. Right? And that's when you, I mean, it's not showing it on this map, but that's the Persian Gulf right here. It's the Persian Gulf right here.
At the lower right,
Right?
at the right side.
Yeah, that's where the Tigris and the Euphrates is shooting out of, the Persian Gulf, which will take you out the Middle East, and you can go around Africa. Right? Keep reading. In second Ezra.
Second Ezra 13 and verse 43.
Right?
And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river.
Right?
For the Most High then shewed signs for them,
Right?
and held still the floods, till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half.
It took them a year and a half to get to this place. Now the thing about that is, people knew about this land. They just wasn't inhabiting it. People was visiting this land. People like Solomon. Like, let's get it. Let's get
East.
yeah, Esau ain't know what's going on. Get I'm trying to actually show the land mass every 3 years. Here it is. Get 1 Kings 10 and 22.
1 Kings chapter 10, verse 22, and it reads, For the king had as a sea of a navy of Tarshish.
Right. So, hey, Solomon had a navy. Right. Our kings actually had navies. Pull up a map of the kingdom of Israel.
I got a quick point. You trying to read that one more time?
For the king had a navy of Tarshish.
If brothers, you know, may not know, but Tarshish, you had nothing but silver and gold there. It was abundant of riches. That's why, you know, one of the reasons why scholars may argue that's probably one of the reasons why Jonah wanted to flee to Tarshish. Because that was that land of opportunity. They tell you about that in Ezekiel. Tarshish went with gold and silver. Even Paul's from Tarshish. You know, and if you was from Tarshish, that's like being from New York back then, or someplace full of gold and, you know, luxurious gems. Yeah, Beverly Hills are the best.
Type in Edom. Oh, there go one right there. The one right under there. That one. I want that one. I want to make a point. Zoom in on there.
Gotta get into that map.
No, you're right. Yeah, scroll down.
I'm talking about the name.
Oh,
It ain't let me click on it, but I was
all right,
like,
this is
Oh,
perfect.
still better?
All right, go to real fast. Go to 1 Kings, real fast 9 and 26. It's not showing the name, but it kind of is. But
1 Kings 9 and 26.
Yeah.
And King Solomon made a navy of ship in Ezon Gabar.
Right, Gabar is right there at the bottom of Edom. You see it goes right into the, what's that river called? They throwing me off that name, that older name.
Is that the red?
Yeah, that's the Red Sea. Right, and you see that's Africa, so you could go straight around Africa. And this is what I wanted. Get 1 Kings 10
see if I can find a
and
better map.
22. Yeah, you could possibly find a better map. You can get a map of the Middle East. Maybe.
Or the red easy to the Pacific Atlantic Ocean.
Scroll down.
The Red Sea to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, type in Red Sea. Yeah, type in a Red Sea. Type in a Red Sea map or something. Yeah, click. Matter of fact, you can click that one, that modern one right here. Right here. Yeah. Right. This is it's like, yeah, this is that area right here. So, you know, it's modern day Jordan, but this is that place where Solomon had, hey brother, keep moving. It's that place,
My phone.
This is the place where Solomon had the ships, his navy. So that navy, it was actually going to America. That's what I'm going to show. Get that in 1 Kings.
1 Kings chapter 9 and verse 26.
No, y'all, we want 10.
10 and 22.
22. Yeah, the Red Sea. No, that's good on that. I just wanted to show that's where his ships was.
1 Kings chapter 10 and verse 22.
Just to link it up with 2nd Ezra. Right, bring it up.
So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom.
Right?
And all the earth sought to Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God.
22. 1 Kings.
Oh, it's like 22. 1 Kings 10 and 22.
Right?
For the king had at a sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Haram.
Right?
Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks.
Right? So they was going every 3 years. Right? Because it would take a year and a half to get to and fro. Right? They was circumnavigating the globe way before. Even Esau tell you that so-called Africans was over in this part of the earth. Right? But nobody actually lived and dwelt there. So that they didn't just, you know, come up with this place in their head. They already knew it existed. Nobody lived there. They said, let's go there. You know what I'm saying? They left.
The whole side of the earth.
Right? That's even good, see? So yeah, now let's bring out 2nd Ezra where we left off. 13. Where we was at.
2nd Ezra chapter 13.
Red Sea is in Africa?
No, it's right by it.
So Northeast Africa, which is Israel right up there to the right?
Israel is right here.
That's right, okay.
That's the
This
Middle
is
East.
where that sea coast would have been, so Solomon and them, it was making this
But they
trip.
calling that the Red Sea. I never thought the
every
Red Sea
3
was in
years.
Africa. That looks like.
But-
That's the Middle East right there.
But now we reading about over
Correct,
this area.
thank you, because there's no
Persian
Middle
Gulf. And now it's still that same time.
Same path.
Same path. So it's the same exact way. How else do they know? Why would it take them 3 years to get on a ship right here or anywhere out?
That's what Jake said.
Why would it take a year and a half?
A person.
Doesn't make sense.
So like this right here is the so-called Middle East.
Right, again, that's
The first person.
not a real thing, the Middle East.
Yeah, I know it's not a real
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah, so called.
They trying to keep us in the dark.
the second Ezra chapter
That's why
13.
the first people was really in South Africa, right? Bring it up.
Look at second Ezra chapter 13 and verse
Where you leave off at?
22?
They said it took them a year and a half. We read that part already.
we left off at I think 44, 45.
Yeah.
For the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the floods till they were passed over.
Right.
For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. The same region is called Azra.
I got a quick precept.
Arslan.
Wisdom of Solomon, Slakia. In addition to Esther 10 and 5, the Lord held still the floods. That's a miracle. You know, because you gotta know, in certain areas of the seas and the oceans, some waters are more temperate than others. And it'll tell you that in the book of Acts. You got that raging spirit, that wind called Euroclidean or Euroclidon over there in this region, around this area. That's where, if I'm not mistaken, that's where Paul got jammed up. But you can get it,
He said this is Ezra.
10 and 5.
Talking about the first chapter. This to Ezra chapter 10 verse 5. For I remember a dream which I saw concerning these matters, and nothing thereof had failed.
You jump down to 10.
Verse 10.
Oh, you want the miracles, yeah.
What's the additions to Esther?
So that's the additions, and that would be like the 10th chapter, but it's the first because it's an addition to it.
Oh, okay.
If you want that book.
So that's,
If you on the
Yes,
app,
chapter
if you on the app, it'll say 1.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
one.
the first chapter and we on the 9th verse. This is the Esther. If you got a pocket for it says
I
10.
got you. All right, my bad, sorry.
You good.
This to Esther chapter 10 verse 10. Therefore hath he made 2 lots, one for the people of God and another for all the Gentiles.
Right.
And these 2 lots came at the hour and time and the day of judgment before God among all nations. So God remembered his people and justified his inheritance.
Just a little bit above that.
You want 9. Yeah.
Right 9.
This is Esther chapter 10 verse 9. And my nation is this Israel, which cried to God and were saved. For the Lord hath saved his people, and the Lord hath delivered us from all those evils. And God hath wrought signs and great wonders, which he have not been done among the Gentiles.
Right, you can't overlook that. That's a great sign and a wonder that the Lord did. The whole still the floods. That's deep. So
That's
he did
right.
that towards Israel. This
That's
is more
right.
proof that these people that's going by this river or by this passage that they'll be Israelites.
The spirit, they called it the Indian Ocean. See that?
Yes, yeah.
That's crazy. Where they went through the so-called Indians, man. With the spirit. Like, go get that last verse in the second Ezra real fast. I want to touch on this word arsarid. Now, Google arsarid, okay? And type in a Jewish encyclopedia. Then we gonna get some inserts from some history, man. And show you some things. Like, right. Negro only don't know what's going on, man.
But they hate the history, man. If you show
Jewish
them
encyclopedia, specifically, okay?
It was still on images, Salaki.
Right there. Like, read that last verse,
Second Ezra chapter 13 verse 45.
right?
For through that country there was a great way to go,
Right?
namely of a year and a half.
Read.
The same region is called Azra.
It's called arsarid. Now, this is off the Jewish encyclopedia, arsarid. It says, the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel were dwelled, observed in the laws of Moses until the time of restoration. That's according to 2nd Esdras 13:45. Columbus identified America with this land. So Christopher Columbus himself identified out of the Bible that this is where the Jews would dwell. That's actually in a movie called 1492. Yeah, if we can find that on YouTube, that'd be mighty. But he said Ezra was one of his sources that he knew it was where the New World would be at. He stopped and said Ezra was a Jew, man. What are you talking about? Right? Because that's like
He
saying
took Jews with him on his journey.
right? So this is out of the Lost Tribes and Promised Land, right? It's a book by Ronald Sanders, right? So we gonna get an insert out of here on page 77, right? And it says, let's go into it. All right, page 77, this is the second paragraph, first the first sentence. It says, a striking element in Columbus's geographical relicity, it says intense and abiding interest in the fourth or second book of Ezra. All right, so he basically was he was letting you know, like, man, this, I'm telling you, man, like his journey, he had second Ezra in his hand, man, and he knew where he was going, right? I'm gonna get that on page 92. Right, page 92, the second paragraph. It says, we do not know much concerning Columbus's crew of about 90 men aboard 3 ships, but at least one of them was an Israelite,
That's right.
whose presence as such was not merely accidental. This was Luis de Torres, a convert of possibly only that year, who had once held a position with the government of Marseille. He was said to have known Hebrew, Aramaic, and some Arabic, and had been brought along by Columbus specifically as an interpreter. Right? So Christopher Columbus, he was interested in the second book of Ezra. He identified America with a land that the Israelites went to, and he brought Hebrew Israelite translators.
That's right.
Right? Because the northern kingdom are the Israelites. It's plain.
I can appreciate it.
Right? Yeah, right.
And Jeremiah 2:7, and this whole walking on, this whole point of them following behind us was for a punishment because of the fact we wasn't keeping God's commandments. So we supposed to be over here keeping the commandments, and they would have never came. But bring that out.
Jeremiah 2:7, and I brought you into a plentiful country.
He brought us into a plentiful country. This big old North America and South America wasn't even called that at that time. Continue.
To eat the fruit thereof and the goodness thereof. But when you enter, you defile my land and made my inheritance an
And
abomination.
when we entered into that land, we defiled the land. We went into idolatry. We went into all these things. We had the Assyrians. That was customs. We followed those customs once we got here. But he brought us to this land to have a new land to keep the commandments for a fresh start.
That's right.
And that's where we went off, and we even let go of our heritage, our own self. That's where we get all these Mayans, Aztecs, Tainos, and all these names from. That's made up names, you know. And I was like, brother, let's
That's
find
right.
on that some more.
All right, so let's get another insert out this book.
That's Isaiah 65.
All right, this page 187 of this book. Now, what is it called? Archive.org?
Isaiah 65.
Go to
15,
archive.org.
they give those names. They're made up names anyway.
Archive.org. Right, so we should be able to actually pull these books up. .org. Lord willing.
Yeah, right.
Click there. Now click books. See if we can get this to pop up with the spirit.
This is search bar. Yeah, search up there.
Alright, search 10 tribes of Israel and then type in Israel Worsley. It's WORSLEY. Click books. Click books. Click open library. Now search Israel Worsley. Israel
how you
Worsley.
spell-
S-L-E-Y.
WORSLEY. Now just click it. That actually looked like it was one.
Oh, was it?
Now did you search it? Search it.
Scroll down. Scroll down. Hold on, okay.
Some of it ain't even low.
I actually see the one I want. That one right there. All right. And this was published in 1828. Open it up and see something.
How you
Yeah, click read. We want to
That's fire.
we want to pull some of this stuff up. Lord willing. They put it to Google.
No, you got it. That's just like the first page.
Would you do click to go to the next page?
Yeah. You see the bottom right there? Keep clicking.
You can drag the cursor to whatever page you want.
I think it's the same book.
So what page is it?
It's kind of weird because it's a little off because it's a few pages, but we can get around the area and figure it out from there. Go to, there's so much in here.
So I said 70 at first, you said 17.
Go to, try to go into like 56. You can drag it from the bottom. You can drag it from the bottom. 56.
What's the name of that book?
Yeah, it's called, Showing Up. I mean, it's a long title by Israel Worsley. It's called, it's a view of American Indians. Their general character, customs, language, public festivals, religious rites, and traditions showing them to be descendants of the Now this page is 56.
It's popping up as 30 something.
Alright, so keep going. That's what I'm saying, it's not on point all the time. Go 20 pages ahead of that, try like 70.
Alright, almost
So
there.
it's like
Almost
49,
there.
alright.
Almost there.
We want to see if we can get this. Cause this is a very heavy book, written in 1828. You say these people they don't get to hit. What's this? 56.
That was 64, so I'm going back just a tad bit. Alright, 64.
Let's
Well,
keep
it
going.
look like 64.
Yeah, that's 64.
Alright.
Keep going. This should be all the same stuff.
Oh no, well, damn, that was 50. Let's say 48 now.
You skipped it.
Alright, so that's 50, 51, 53,
Hold on.
55.
It's on 60s.
No, it said, look, when I went back, it just said 48.
Skip the page.
Yeah, skip.
Alright, 53.
Alright, I think it's skip.
Or I don't know, this thing jamming that book.
Alright, go exit out of this book. Go try another one. Cause I actually go back again. You gotta find this.
Alright. What's the name of that book? 10 Tribes of Israel, American Indians?
Open this one up.
This one that I'm on?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna try the same thing. Try page 53 as well.
So that's saying 39, 40, 45, 46,
Or what?
53, 54.
This ain't skipping. Yeah, I actually had it on my, this actually might be something right here.
55, 50. Think 55, 50.
Keep going. Let me see, there's more than that. I actually had it pulled up like that.
So yeah, that's 55, 56. So where you want me to go to?
These are always gotta be cracked.
Keep going.
Oh, yeah.
Let's try 59. Let's see if we can figure this out at least.
57, 58.
Stop it, but we'll figure it out.
Alright, 60,
Go back.
59.
Let's see something.
Alright.
Okay, yeah, this is different. Cause the books is different. So it's not necessarily the exact same thing. I'm gonna just have to read it then. I'm gonna just read it. Right here. So this is, when you get this copy of it, you'll get page 53. It says, the common dress was a flannel garment or mantle ornamented on the upper edge by a narrow strip of fur, and at the lower edge by fringes or tassels.
That's
Right,
right.
so the Native Americans was wearing fringes and tassels.
That's right.
Let's jump.
to page 59. Right? It says, Adier asserts or assures us that from the experience of 40 years, he can say that none of the many nations from Hudson's Bay to the Mississippi, right? This is the Native Americans, have ever been known to attempt the formation of any image of the Great Spirit. They call it the Most High the Great Spirit. It says, yet they are all very religious people and devout in their worship. They never attempt to divine from anything but from dreams. Right? So they say they don't attempt to divine from anything but from dreams, which proceed from a tradition that their ancestors received knowledge of future events from heaven through this medium. Right? So they literally divine from dreams.
That's right. Nah, this the wrong page, but it's still good information because it's going into how Gad was trying to keep the law, the cities of refuge. I'm reading it right here.
Yeah, so this whole book, this whole book got information.
See,
right?
look, it's going to the city of refuge right here.
Check this out. It says the town of refuge called Chogak or
Numbers
Choak
30.
is situated on the large stream of the Mississippi. Where did they get the idea of the town of refuge from? The
Right.
scriptures, man.
Yeah, it tell you that in the book too. That's fine.
Let's get that.
We pulling it. Yeah, it tell you that.
Numbers 35.
It tell you that in here. It tell you.
That's the precept.
Yeah, let me zoom out just a tad bit.
I was gonna get that.
Deuteronomy 23 and 4, Numbers 35 and 18.
See, that's fire. I didn't see
It tell
that.
you in the book. That's
Yeah,
fire.
look out, precept. I wonder what page that is. If I can find that in here.
It say 59 over here, you know. So I don't.
If I can find the area you and I can find out
That's
where.
crazy.
Sometimes.
It say the
Jewish law.
Yeah, the Jewish law numbers 35 and 18 commanded that the murderer shall be put to death. The avenger of blood shall slay the murderer.
See, that's something I didn't even read. So this book is a fire book.
It says, so with the Indians, the nearest relative of a murdered man is bound to seek revenge. In general, nothing but blood can atone for blood. That's crazy.
Wow.
That's in the book. That's the natives did this.
That's
So this whole
crazy.
book is full of that. Right?
What's that book called?
That's
It's called
fine.
A View of American Indians. The 10 Tribes of Israel. It's by Israel Worsley, published in 1828.
Look at
This
this.
is like an older version, so it's like the pages are different.
Yeah.
I think it might be smaller. I don't know where you at, because if I can figure out around where you at,
And on here it say 59, so I don't, you know.
and this is smaller words.
Yeah.
So try going back.
Look at this. Say here, an Englishman was protected some years ago after having killed an Indian warrior in defense of his property. He told Adair that after some months stay in that town, he proposed returning to his house was in the neighborhood, which was in the neighborhood, but the chiefs told him it would prove fatal to him.
Right, because if you left the refuge city, you're done.
That's fine.
And brothers know, James Adair, he was a contemporary with this guy. He wrote the book, The Origins of the American Indians. And he's writing claims proving that these so-called Indians, they have to be the Jews. He's determining this based off their customs, their traditions, their culture, how they was moving. For an example, as we see, like they had the city of refuge.
They say
Gad-
he was
Gad was-
obligated to
that's
remain
Gad,
there
right?
until he had
Northern
found
Kingdom?
means to
So they're not
satisfy
Jews,
the
they're
friends of the
Israelites.
deceased by presence.
You just taught me that.
Oh,
It's kind of deep, man.
and that's
man.
crazy.
I gotta find that page in this book so I can highlight that.
I got another point.
Damn, matter of fact.
I got another
Fell
point.
asleep over
You got something else?
Yeah, can you type this in?
God.
It's a new tab.
I want to read one more out of this real fast.
Con, you got it,
Just tell
King.
me
It's
this.
page 63 of this book. It say, the American Indians, especially the Cherokees and Choctaw, have in their places of worship, as they called them, the beloved squares, a very humble resemblance of the cherubim, which overshadowed the mercies.
Dang.
What's the cherub?
Can't get around that.
Angel type.
That's what I thought.
You can't get around that.
Why they call them squares though? Were they like
That's
that?
just what they call them, Ken. That's true. That's you know, that's
So cherubim is like a baby angel.
that's what they call
It
it.
ain't no bait, it ain't like how Esau is.
That's what I'm thinking in my mind.
Angels like
Another point on that too.
Shema, you said
Shemai.
It's another point to back up that the so-called Hispanics and natives are Northern Kingdom. You got the Chief Joseph Stone.
Yes, that's what I was going to get.
Oh, the Los Lunas Deca Stone too.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You got a lot of ornaments.
It's too
He
much.
says old.
It is too much.
They wore fringes. They had cherubim.
Yeah.
They celebrated.
They ate unleavened bread.
They said they only divine from dreams that their ancestors got.
That's number 12 and 6.
That's That's
But
number
did they
12.
go off though?
Of course.
Yeah, they went off.
Yeah, so they started smoking peace pipes and taking things that induce dreams.
Yeah, they went off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Of course.
Peace
they
pipes.
know.
hallucinogenics and stuff.
It's 53.
It's another point I want to make in here too.
No, you got it.
You still trying to
It's
figure
gonna be
that
that
out?
part. We got it.
You got it. Here go another one. Here go
Shemai,
another one. Here go another one. Brothers got it.
Shemai.
It's page 59, the last paragraph of 1 to 6.
We go.
This is fire. It says Duprez was intimately acquainted with the guardians of the temple of a nation near the Mississippi and requesting to be informed of the nature of their worship. He was told that they acknowledged a supreme being who they call the Great Spirit, or the Spirit infinitely great, or the Spirit by way of excellence. The guardian said the Great Spirit is so great and powerful that in comparison of him, all other things are as nothing. He made all that we see, all that we can see, and all that we cannot see. Right? That's going into Colossians 1:15. He says, he is so good that he cannot do ill to anyone, even if he had a mind to do it. Right? Because the Most High, he created good and evil, but he's all, he created his evil spirits to do his evil work. He don't necessarily do evil though. That might be too high for people to understand, but he don't do no ill, but he had a mind to, so he created things to do that.
It's plain do it, but you
It says, the Great Spirit made all things by his will. Right, check this out. This part is deep.
Bring it up.
It says the Great Spirit made all things by his will. Nevertheless, the little spirits who are his servants, made by his orders, have made many excellent things in the universe, which we admire. But God himself formed man by his own hands. So he said he got little spirits that created other things.
That's
Right? We understand that's Yahweh Shai the angels, Elohim, as it says when you read God. Right? It says, the little spirits are free servants always before him and ready to execute his pleasure with an extreme diligence.
Direct 30,
We on top of
38. That's 38.
That's fire. Hey, man.
Can't get around that.
But they not Israelites.
Why
No, it's apparent that they are.
How do you even know that?
Now I got a question for y'all before we move on.
39
Yeah,
and
one more
28.
page.
Yeah, where they learn that?
That's what I'm saying. What did they learn?
Go ahead, then I got some questions for y'all.
39 and 28.
Now, this is the book, the 10 tribes of Israel. Jenkins are, it's like a Jenkins Timothy. You had a lot of people in the ancient world, well, not really the ancient world, but like during the 1800s, a lot of them were explorers and navigators. They dwelt amongst the Gadites. And southern, it's like in northern kingdom. So they all had these notepads and journals, and it was just documenting us and recording us. So that's why you see a lot of the 10 tribes and so on and so forth. The origins of American Indians, the American Indians history. But you got it.
You want me to start?
Well, I'll read it. You got, scroll up just a little bit. Or is that it? All right, that's good.
I'm starting on the other page.
That's good. The state of the Jews, who might prefer to take their chance with them, and that immigrations which were common to the people of that region, especially the old inhabitants of the masses, were moved to the river Her by Tiglath-Pileser. We read about it earlier. Sometime before the taking of Samaria and the removal of the 10 tribes, they proceeded until they came to a great water or river which stopped their progress, as they had no artificial means of passing it, and reduced them to great distress and almost despair. How long they remained here cannot now be known. But finally, God again appeared for them, as he had done for their fathers of the old at the Red Sea. This is coming from a so-called nasty white man from 1883.
Right.
So as we continue to read, it says this: he had done for their fathers of old at the Red Sea. by giving them some token of his presence and encouragement, slightly encouraging them to go on. Thus, what's that?
Countenancing.
Countenancing them in their project of forsaking the heathen. God stayed the flood, or perhaps froze it into firm ice.
Wow.
They passed over by the narrow passages of the river, which may have been occasioned by the islands. So they might go from island to island until they landed on the opposite side of the sea. They might have been a long time exploring the banks of this water, as some of the nations of Europe, with all the, these, so on and so forth. You can jump down a little bit more.
And that's going into, like I was saying, Solomon and them navigated the sea. So they saying they would have been long doing this with understanding. That's what it was kind of saying. They had understanding the floods and stuff already. Because they already had navies and was navigating.
And scroll up just a little bit.
That's crazy.
Here, then they found a desert land of a better soil and slightly in climate, and went on in the process of time traveled so far as to take a year and a half. A year and a half, which construed according to the prophetic rule of their ancestors, a year for a day, would make upwards of 500 years, and thus literally found a country wherein mankind never yet dwelt.
Hallelujah.
But although these children of Israel might have passed over the straits of whatever that word is, and the people, the northern parts of America, and so went on to the south and east, and left some settlers wherever they remained. Anytime, yet it does not follow that they might know, slightly not have been attended by many of the inhabitants. You scroll down a little bit more. Oh, this is what I want. Neither does it follow that some persons of other nations might not have been driven by storms at sea on the Americas coast and made settlements true. All of these might have contributed to establish customs among them, different from their own, and also might adulterate and change their language in some instances, as was done in Babylon. So if it tells you, how they went off and why. Similar to Babylon was going off, worshiping other gods. They tell you that in Ezekiel, And you start changing their so-called, it's like if you try to change their real culture into something that's not really culture.
Speaking of Ashdod.
The 10 tribes of Israel.
Then they are to remain until the latter times. The 10 tribes of Israel by Jenkins Timothy.
See that? Go back on this. I want to search another book. I want to see if I can find this. Lost Tribes and Promised Land.
Say when we go to the search bar on here.
Yeah.
Wait, no, we did it a certain way. Books. And then,
Where did they get all these Mayans and Aztecs and
But Aztecs, Azteca. This means people of time.
Alright, that's what I want to know. Where they get Taino and all these Hebrews.
I'm not sure where the white man named them from. Oh, it's called Lost Tribes.
That wasn't, those not the white man names, they had them names before the white man came over.
That's the English version though. They had to call something else. They were speaking Hebrew, which is, if we can find it.
this here right here, Ronald Sanders.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's actually a good question.
Well, I mean, so,
This here right here, King.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused.
What you could want to read?
Just search it. Don't click number. Search it.
So that was a good question.
I say not in library and stuff. I don't know. You heard me?
It's like you had the next.
Say not in libraries.
Yeah, go back to the Lost Tribes.
Select it. You got a question, Open?
Type it in again, Ken.
Oh, you talking about like up here?
Yeah, we're in the
Thank
search
you.
bar.
It's simply answered.
That's it right there, right?
Yeah, this.
It's not on the library. So
Yeah.
it'll be popping up multiple times.
Yes.
Like that title.
Lost Tribe.
Lost Tribes and Promised Land.
But my brothers might answer you back.
Don't click nothing. Hit search. Yeah, just click answer. Scroll down. Scroll down. Yeah, none of them in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and read it.
Want me to do it the way, the one way you're
You
not?
could get one
Yeah.
to read, it ain't gonna pop right.
Big line. You want to do it like that? Shabbat.
Shemai. Trying to get in this thing, man. Oh, trying to hop in there. Alright, go to page 187.
187.
Sometimes you gotta do that out.
Yeah.
It says limited preview.
Yeah, you gotta log in, bro. Sometimes. That's what I mean.
You log in.
I can't remember my password.
I'll just read it.
Read that.
Bring it out.
Alright, I'll just read it.
Okay.
If you hit sign in with Google, you might be, we have to make it and all that. Alright, so this is page 187, second paragraph. Like the second sentence. It's out of Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. The same book that said he had Israelite interpreters and stuff. Alright, see if it pop up. It's dope if they can follow along. Top one, yeah, it's not on this
You so wicked.
it's not on here. It says, they ain't wanna put that one on there.
Yeah.
It says, for with increasing frequency and conviction, Duran came to see elements of a Judaic character in the old Aztec religion. At this first tendency appears only as a fervent search for Jewish analogies, which is Israelite culture. It says, provoked by Aztec customs, such as only eating of unleavened bread on certain days of the year.
What page?
It's page 187. So they only ate unleavened bread on certain days of the year.
187.
It says, if somebody got this book, somebody say somebody flip into that joint. It says, the prohibition of drinking liquids after the eating of certain ritual foods and the use of baths for purification. That's why they say the Indians had to teach the white folk how to wash their behinds.
So they have.
What's a bath?
Right? They had to teach them how to
What's
take
a
a bath.
bath?
A bath.
Oh, bath.
Right? They had to teach them how to
We're
wash their
talking about
behinds.
the unclean laws, right?
Yeah, it says the use of baths for purification.
Cleansing.
In time, this begins to seem to Rand like overwhelming evidence that the Indians are indeed descendants from the lost tribes of Israel.
That's
Right, these are all so-called white men. Right, just being around these Indians.
Isn't this so-called man, one of you got died or something like that?
Try, is it opening? Try black Indians.
It just won't load.
Yeah, it's say, try going to black Indians.
Alright, what page?
Black Indians.
It's
Try,
loaded. It's loaded now, right?
oh,
That's page two.
Downloaded it.
Oh, that's safe.
yeah, that's it.
Which page?
Well, this is a different book. Black Indians. And I want to go to page 112 in the Black Indians. So these are all different books I advise brothers to get. You got the Black Indians, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. This one is crazy right here. Somewhere in here it's telling you about the refuge. Man, I'm gonna have to read this whole book. That was crazy. You got the refuge cities.
precept in there.
Yeah, so that's Mike. Now this is the Black Indian. Go to 112. So it's not in there either. Boy, oh boy. Sometimes you gotta just look at the PDF.
Yeah.
Now this might be something else. That 140 facts.
Oh, that's not good. That's a good one too. Jay gotta look at that
Yeah,
one.
we can go
That's a
into
good
some
one.
of those. If you remember some of the facts, we can dive into that too. This is something else. I'm gonna read 112. Check this out. Cause this is Deuteronomy 28:68. Cause they say they didn't go to slavery on ships. People say that. But let's get it. It says, by 1661, slavery had become legal in the British colonies. Africans were preferred since they were thousands of miles from home. Indian slaves were able to flee to their armed brothers and sisters and then come roaring back armed and revengeful. The idea of keeping slaves distant from their homes and families was crucial to having them under strict control. You see, that's why they didn't really want to enslave the Indians,
because they knew the
Right.
land, they had family. It says, British merchants took Indians enslaved on the mainland and shipped them to the West Indies.
Wow.
So they went to slavery on ships, man.
Just like us.
It says this was the only safe way to enslave Native Americans, for bondage was only secure when its victims had no one to turn to, no family or friends nearby. See that?
And the point is that you read closely, he said he took them, carried them over the sea into Assyria. So how they got into Assyria?
Ships.
They went slavery on ships into Assyria.
That's right, just like us.
It's like us. It's not this time. This time they came over here freely, went off, and then they got,
They
you know what I'm
shipped
saying?
elsewhere.
And then they shipped
To
us
the
here.
west, and took them to the West Indies.
Yeah, they was shipping them different places.
But also with the 10 tribes,
found it?
once they was conquering them, they'd be shipping them
Oh, he
across
found
the
that.
Americas.
He found that. Yeah.
After they shipped them all off.
It says the Rhine, all one the evidence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, if you got, what book is this? Lost Tribes and Promised Lands? Let's get another one then. That's page 187. This book got a lot of heat in it, man. Get page 3. We want page 364. Yeah, 364. Through the Spirit. Check this out. Yeah. So, you know, Northern Kingdom go into a lot of this history. He said, Negro only, they don't like the history, man. How can you be a Negro only? It makes no sense, man. Right, so it says waving the banner, check it out. It's that second or that third paragraph. No, you in the right area, go down. It says third paragraph. Second, it says waving the banner. It's the third paragraph. It says,
Fourth paragraph.
yeah, it says, waving a banner high in the air, the Indian guide soon was greeted by a puff of smoke far beyond the other bank of the river. In response to this signal, 2 men waited. Eventually, a canoe appeared, bearing 3 men and women, all of them Indians, to the place where Francisco and Montesinos were standing at the water's edge. The woman got off to speak to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montesinos could not understand, although he could be perceived that he was being identified in the conversation. Then she turned to her male companion to explain the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose and went over to Montesinos, and to his utter astonishment said, Shemai, Yasha'Allah, Adan Ahulia, Adan Ahud. Like basically he said, Shemai Yasha'Allah, Yahweh Ahad, now Yahweh could. That's what they actually said. It says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. They had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism. Right, so they were speaking Hebrew.
Right.
Right? Then it says a brief conversation then ensued in their common ancestral tongue, according to Montesinos, whose fluency in it is almost as perplexing to the reader of his narrative as that of his 3 mysterious new companions. They told him that they themselves were of the tribe of Reuben, and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby.
That's crazy.
Right, so they straight up said it, man. Like, we the
I've
tribe of
seen that
Reuben,
before,
Joseph
so
is
I will,
fine. That's plain, man. So you can't get around this stuff.
That's the next evil.
Right, scroll down a little bit. It's another. Right, start at that bottom part. It says Francisco told Montesinos all that he knew about these people from his own. You gotta scroll up to go to the next page. Right here. It said own tradition. It says his ancestors, to their eternal shame, had indeed made war on them and persecuted them. He's talking about the white folks. They persecuted these Indians. It says only the sorcerers of his tribe had perceived that they were a special people. Right, and that's talk. Get real fast. Get Esther, chapter 6. Get the book of Esther real fast, because the sorcerers will be like the wise men of his people. You heard me? Get Esther
6 and what?
6 in like the last 2 verses. I believe that's what I want.
The book of Esther, chapter 6, and verse 13.
Yeah.
And Haman told Zeros,
Right,
his wife, and all his friends, everything that had befallen him.
right.
Then said his wife, man, and Zeros.
No,
his
then
wife.
it said his wise men.
So like his
Basically
wise
his
men.
sorcerers, read.
Then said his wise man and Zeros his wife, and to him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him.
You see that? His wise men, his sorcerers, they said, if you going against Mordecai, he an Israelite, and you gonna fall. Now let's see what his sorcerer said. He says, only the sorcerers of his tribe had perceived that they were a special people, and had given warning that they should be left alone. The God of these children of Israel it's the true God, they had said. This is what the white man said, the sorcerer white man said to the other white man, like, leave them alone. It says, and everything inscribed on their tablets is true, because we carried our laws and traditions with us. That's in Babylon and Timbuktu. We had all our laws and stuff with us. It says, at the end of days, there will be lords of all the nations of the earth.
Damn.
One nation will come bringing many things to this land, and after we had all provided for, these children of Israel will go forth from where they are now and reign over the whole world. So they knew it. They like, hey, these Israelites gonna rule over everything, man. So we should leave these people alone, man, because they're going to rule over everything. And that's via the precepts. All right, let's get that in Genesis. Can't get around that, man. Trying to get the blessing real fast.
My blessed are all they that blessed communication.
When he said he gonna rule the gates of his enemies.
Oh yeah.
Let's say that's a
That's a fire one.
Genesis 20:17.
yeah, bring that up. I know it was in 20 something. I was just about
The
to
book of Genesis chapter 22 verse 17.
right.
That in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies.
Right, read.
And that seed shall all the nation of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice.
See that? So the seed of Israel, right, they're gonna rule over the whole earth, and all the nations gonna have to submit unto him and keep the commandments. And these sorcerers, they knew it, man. The Lord put it in their spirit to understand that. Really, the God of this people is that's the real God. And all that stuff they got in Hebrew in their tablets, hey,
Make me think about
deal with it. That's real.
Balaam and Barak.
Yeah, Barak. So those heathens are
That's right. This everything you need to know about Latino history.
Don't put those books away. I'm gonna take over.
The title of this portion is Mexicans, as many as the stars in the universe. Page 7, first paragraph, by Junice Novas. The largest number of Hispanic Americans is 12 million. According to the latest Census Bureau reports are of Mexicans' birth or ancestry. Mexican Americans or Chicanos, there's a lot of bywords, so bear with me. I'm gonna jump down from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Mexico. At last official count, there were 7.8 million Mexican Americans living in California. This is just further proof to show that we're really like the sands of the sea. We're innumerable. There's so many of us. And Esau said there's only 2% of blacks make up America. What? Oh, we outnumber y'all.
They just killed
Certainly
it.
not the
You look
minority.
up Mexican population in the world, it's 126 million.
You see that?
What about us?
I want to see whites, so-called. They probably are going to tell the truth or just lie.
That's
They want
literally
to see
just,
there's 100 million.
and that's literally just Esau counting.
Well then, yeah, that's their count, so we can't trust them.
It's people that can't even do a census.
It's been awesome. You can't count it, so how you gonna count?
You can't count the stars.
Hey, what happened to David?
It's billions.
Right. His scripture said,
Like the stars.
It's like, ain't also saying in the book of Enoch that Enoch counted all the stars.
fuck out of here.
You don't hear about that.
Oh, hey, with that, we're going to the, so brothers will ask later, we're going to the Riverwalk. Well, let's see how I look outside.
Yes.
But, yeah. Whoa, brother.
Come out, Charlotte.
Come here, brother.
Shalom.
Shalom.